Hey, so it's not October anymore. I guess I'm a couple of months behind getting back to a certain horror game. I guess I put this off long enough. It's time to finally go back to Eternal Darkness.
I've read your comments, listened to your tips and suggestions. Some of you thought I was crazy for asking for feedback, but it turned out okay actually. Definitely people were, let's say, passionate, but respectfully disagree was a phrase I heard more than you'd think. Turns out the internet isn't always a terrible place. So armed with a fuller understanding of Eternal Darkness, I'm back from having properly finished this game, and I'm here to tell you that this just ain't for me. I still enjoyed the story and appreciated its ambition. I loved its audio presentation with wonderful voice work, music, and sound effects, but the combat, the magic, and its attempts to spook me with its sanity gimmick couldn't have done less for me. But I think I see what others love so much about Eternal Darkness, and as someone who plays horror games pretty regularly, I've come to the realization that Eternal Darkness is the perfect horror game for people who prefer their games at a less demanding pace and for people with a lower tolerance for scares. First thing to do is clear the air of mistakes I made when I first reviewed this game. First off, Eternal Darkness did in fact come out after the Resident Evil remake and Silent Hill 2, not the other way around. So I take back what I said about this game looking extremely good. Silent Hill 2 and Resident Evil destroy in the visuals department. Eternal Darkness's aesthetics are good at best, neither great nor exceptional. Finishing enemies. I swear I never noticed they blink until I was nearly finished editing. Just a total bonehead moment for me. Trappers. I don't know why, but it never occurred to me to use blades and arrows. Just take them out in one shot and move on. Another bonehead moment. Everyone seems to think that I didn't know about locking, but go back and watch the footage, and most of the time I wasn't locking on. It was at the very beginning of the game, when combat is easy and simple anyway, and I was honestly just rushing through that part when capturing footage for the review. The gorilla guys. Their magic is super annoying, though it is not entirely unavoidable. Up close it can be hard to avoid, but yes, far away it is avoidable. Most of your comments were on how I was behaving in combat. It mostly had to do with how little I was using magic, and holy crap, y'all weren't kidding. This game goes from pretty frustrating to stupid easy when you properly use magic. With enhanced weapons, I'm cutting down monsters where they stand, typically in one hit, just slaughtering them. If I ever needed crowd control, I could just toss up a barrier and I'm totally protected. And if I was ever hurting for magic or health, I would just run in a circle and then cast my super heal all spell. At times it felt like I was cheating, but nope, it's all right there in the game. I also took your suggestion and the suggestion of the strategy guide and just ran past enemies I didn't feel like fighting. During the Guardian battle, the strategy guide said, quote, "This is indisputably the most difficult battle in the game." And yeah, the timing was a bit tricky on the boss's second stage, but I found it pretty easy and rather dull. Once I figured out what to do and when to cast the spell, it was stupid easy. People also brought up the point that this isn't an action game, and no, it isn't exclusively, but why then do I start the game as a badass chick with a shotgun, blasting zombies, and then this badass Spartan dude who is completely nonplussed by the sight of the dead getting up and walking around? What does work just feels janky as hell, and you hardcore fans might be shocked that dozens and dozens of comments admitted that yeah, the combat is kinda clunky. It was true that I didn't fully grasp the combat last time, but once it was explained to me, the game became frankly a bore. Use of magic negates nearly all difficulty, and even without magic, the combat couldn't have been any less satisfying. It did absolutely nothing for me. Eternal Darkness's sanity meter gets a lot of praise and is often held up as one reason this game is a classic. The sanity thing is cool on paper, but never amounts to much. I've been told time and time again this game is terrifying. Yes, the bathtub gag was a cheap jump scare that totally got me, but that's it. And as your comments stated, if you're low on sanity, you can just cast a spell to refill it, so what's the point? And even when I purposefully let my sanity drop just to see the gags, they were nothing special. To the people who find this game terrifying, I think playing Silent Hill 2 would literally kill you. But I don't mean to demean people who find this game scary. In fact, I'd recommend people who just can't handle Silent Hill to look at Eternal Darkness as an alternative. But to horror fans, I say look elsewhere for memorable scares and unnerving atmosphere. I think it says something that for the sake of research, I booted up the Resident Evil remake and right away I was having a better time. Are these games really comparable? No, they're apples and oranges, but I prefer this apple to that orange. Give me item management over a magic system. Give me the claustrophobia of a spooky mansion over the mystery of a spooky mansion. Give me rationing items and carefully plotting my path to running in a circle to refill my magic so I can cast the overly powerful heal all spell before I enhance my weapons to kill enemies in one hit. But then it's unfair to say that Eternal Darkness's combat does nothing for me, without admitting that the classic Resident Evil tank controls are an acquired taste. But Resident Evil is more my speed, Eternal Darkness is not. So if you don't care for Resident Evil, then Eternal Darkness might be your game. Neither of these two games are for everyone, but chances are one of these is for you. That's what I'm trying to say here. Doing right by my fans means doing two things. 1, listening to my fans, and 2, being honest with my fans. This is why 1, I'm reviewing Eternal Darkness in the first place, and 2, I'm here to tell you that it does nothing for me. I know a lot of you wanted to hear me talk about how great this game was, but that's not happening. And I'm not as alone as some of the hardcore fans may think, though I may be one of the few critics to give Eternal Darkness a non-recommendation. And before some of you start pointing at the word happy at the top there, I calls them like I sees them, which is why I also didn't recommend Splatterhouse 3 and Zoda's Revenge way back in the day, or Parasite Eve 2 recently. One last thing before I conclude this video. Eternal Darkness fans should read Andrew McMillan's piece on how Silicon Knights pretty much destroyed their studio working on Eternal Darkness 2. Too Human wasn't the hit they were hoping for, and instead of concentrating their efforts on a follow-up project, X-Men Destiny, they had nearly half their team secretly working on Eternal Darkness 2 to be shopped around after Destiny's release. The neglected X-Men game flopped harder than Too Human, and the build of Eternal Darkness 2 was reportedly not even close to something that could be shopped around. You could make the case that Eternal Darkness begat the hubris that led to Silicon Knights' eventual undoing. You also might have heard that they tried to sue Epic Games and lost big time. Anything more Eternal Darkness related is highly unlikely, and even I'll admit that it's a shame because the problems I have with this game could probably be fixed with a sequel, but Dennis Dyack evidently did a stunning job mismanaging his studio.
So really it came down to the combat. Some people were able to look past its shortcomings and still enjoy it. I was not able to. The story, which again I did enjoy, just wasn't enough for me. If you left a comment on my previous Eternal Darkness video, thanks. You had a hand in making this video, and a hand in this kind of internet experiment that I had. I think it was kind of cool. Even though a lot of people were upset, that's just kind of how it goes. And thanks to all the people who said I respectfully disagree. There was certainly some genuine discourse that came about my dumb little video, so thanks for that. Check out Eternal Darkness. It might be for you. It is not for me, but check it out. I'm frankly sick of talking about this game, so I'm going to wrap things up and just say this is the happy video game nerd saying, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. Cheers.